Hi, welcome to the Purna Yoga Shala. My name is Domenic Nappa, otherwise known as the Concrete Yogi, and today I'm going to teach you a little bit about Ashtanga. Kind of like this setting that I have now with a desk out in front of me. We got Buddha here ready to learn. So we're going to immediately jump into what I think is the foundational principles behind the sacred science of yoga. And you'll see that here in the Shala we'll talk about it a lot like that as a science. Too often, yoga is misunderstood as just the movement of the body, and here we're going to always talk about the other 7 limbs, or in Sanskrit, Shesha Sapta Anga. So, how do we even know about these other 7 limbs? Well, they come from a text of Patanjali's Yoga Sutras. It's probably the main text that I'll be referring to whenever I discuss the yoga principles, philosophy, or psychology. And in this Yoga Sutras, he describes these 8 limbs. The first 2 are the ethics and the morals of the yogi, or the ones seeking this attainment of unity with all other life and with that creative source, whatever you want to call it. So in this way, we can immediately know that the first 2 steps, they have to do with the ethics and the morals, or the way that the person controls themselves or behaves. Once we can control ourselves and emotions and reactions to our emotions, well, then we can start practicing controlling the body. Because the first thing that we're going to need to do once we get onto the yoga mat and start the physical practice is understand that sometimes the mind is going to want to do one thing, and we're going to need the body to do another thing. So when that happens, we have to be able to ease the mental practice. The first 2 steps have helped with that greatly. But understanding the remaining 5 limbs will help to elevate your physical practice to a whole nother level. So let's talk about them. The first 2, of course, I just mentioned, ethics and morals, each containing 5 components. So there's 10 laws before you can even start the physical practice. Sounds very familiar. Now the third, obviously the asana, just mentioned that, can only be done if the 4th is being utilized as well. And these 2 are the main focuses of a lot of today's physical practices, especially in the group settings. This is controlling the breath. So controlling the body and controlling the breath, the 3rd and the 4th limbs of yoga. And that's all well and good. It's going to help you find incredible benefits. I understand that. But the last 4 limbs will bring you even greater benefits. And the 5th is kind of what I like to think of as the slip and slide for the last 3. So this 5th limb, it's easy to talk about, it's very difficult to practice. It is controlling or withdrawing from the senses. Withdrawing from the senses can just be as simple as closing the eyes to withdraw from the sense of sight. But withdrawing from the sense of sound and the sense of smell, these are 2 very different and always available senses. So it's going to take some practice, but more so it's going to take understanding. Now once you can bypass the 5th limb, your mind is in this heightened state of awareness or focus, which is the 6th limb of yoga. It's called Dharana. And I know I'm not talking about the Sanskrit terms, and I won't yet. I'll be breaking each one of these down in excruciating detail in future videos, but right now just giving you the understanding of what they mean, what they are, so you can hopefully carry them into your physical practice. I think that's some benefit for you in and of itself. Anyway, back to the limbs. The 6th limb of focus is kind of the key. It turns the lock of the door. And that key is, well, it's necessary to enter into the 7th limb, or walk through the door. And that's meditation. That really kind of is the practice of yoga at the end of it. It is the meditation. It is the quieting of the mind, the focusing of the mind. Movement of the body, it can help to lead towards that. Controlling of the breath, it can help to lead towards that. That's why we call these other limbs instruments. Instruments towards meditation. So after the 7th limb of meditation, the 8th limb is the goal. It's absorption. It's a very heavy and very convoluted topic, So it's really not even worth delving into because it's not something that's going to be practiced. The 7 limbs before it, they're the necessary steps, the ingredients to this recipe. And the 8 is the goal. It's the solution to the equation. It's what's on the other side of the equal sign. So we don't talk about that necessarily. I mean, we can mention it, and again, I will bring it into your understanding. But to know that there's 4 layers, to know that some is with reflection, with seed, without reflection, without seed, it won't matter because the other 7 limbs have to be completely understood and very devotionally practiced for that 8th limb to ever even be achieved. So that's my breaking down of the 8-limb path for you. I hope it helps you understand what yoga means in a greater context, and in some way maybe you can take these practices onto the yoga mat. I talked about the first 2 limbs very briefly, and that's for a very obvious reason. I want to be able to go back to them later in videos and talk about each limb and even each component of those limbs, 5 for each, 10 in total, to really bring those into more of a lifestyle component of the practice. Every day, how you interact, how you, how you treat your body, how you treat others, and that's the sort of things that we don't even have to ever bring onto the yoga mat. It's lovely when we do, it's lovely when we can find the parallels, but to have those expand into our everyday life is something very, very powerful. So I look forward to sharing with you all my knowledge on this journey, and I'm so grateful that you joined me for this and for any other videos new to the whole process. So remember to like, subscribe, share it, I think is another thing you might want to do. Well, you know what to do. Just go on and do it. Have a great, beautiful day, and thank you again for joining me on The Concrete Yogi. This is where physical meets philosophical, and it is not your average shala. Peace.